So, in today's video, I'm going to be radically honest. I'm just going to share with you how I struggled with porn addiction and how overcoming that porn addiction enabled me, large in part, to build the business that I've built today, and become a millionaire in my early 20s, and build a business that does anywhere from 20,000 on a really really low week to 70 to 100,000 on a really good week. And not just the business end of it either, but finding my fiance and finding a woman that I want to get married to, and reestablishing some healthy relationships with my family and with friends, and getting on a better routine, taking care of my health, and building a good body and a good physique, and a good regimented routine around these things, and actually becoming somebody of value. And hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just gonna kind of share my story and my experience with pornography, and then kind of share with you the breaking point when I decided that it was time to stop, and that point at which it no longer was in my peripheral vision. And I'm also gonna share with you some advice I've given some of my close friends that has legitimately helped them quit porn and move on from watching these things, and not just looking at porn, but obviously actually pleasuring yourself to porn. And I want to talk about the negative effects of porn, and I want to talk about exactly what you need to do if you really do want to quit, and why. I made a video a second back about why video games are keeping you broke and sad. That was the name of the video, and to be honest, I was in a little bit of a mood that day, and I was just feeling really angsty about just some of the things that used to really hold me back. And I was really surprised at the level of lashback and the level of defense that people gave me. They said, Trey, dude, a little bit of video games here and there, fine. I'm not saying a little bit of video games are fine or not. I'm saying if your lifestyle is video games, and if you're so focused on video games, you're not going to be able to level up in life. In the same way, pornography creates a sense of satisfaction as a man that you're supposed to get from a committed woman, that you're supposed to get from somebody who loves you and is in submission to you and your leadership and respects you, and that's what it's supposed to be, right? Whereas with porn creates basically a fake. It's an artificial. What would you call it? I mean, we're all on the same page. I don't have to explain why porn is bad. I'm gonna explain how I got over it and how I moved on. I don't need to convince you that porn is bad. If you need me to convince you that porn is bad, you need to just get off of this channel and go find another channel and another guy to listen to, because it's pretty obvious that it's horrible. Here's my sort of story. I stumbled into it on accident when I was 11 or 12, like a lot of people do, and I actually stumbled into it kind of just on the internet. I remember I used to play a lot of online games, there was sites like miniclip.com and these sites with flash games on them. I played this one website, some sketchy website for flash games, and on the right panel there was a banner ad for pornography for a website. I think it was xvideos.com, and it was just pretty much a graphic image of two people having sex, obviously in a really over the top way. And I had no idea what I'd just seen, and so I clicked off the page almost fearfully. But then that image stuck with me as an 11 or 12-year-old kid, and obviously it does. It just sticks with you, and it sits in the back of your head, and it slowly just kind of eats at your consciousness. And I'm sure your story is very similar if you have an issue with porn, where either a friend introduced it to you or you stumbled into it or whatever. And it was really just curiosity. I just wanted to figure out what I was looking at and what this was that I just had seen, because I knew obviously what sex was. I knew what these things were, because my parents were pretty open about all of it, and I was raised in a pretty healthy home when it comes to sexual related conversations and topics. But what started to happen was I just got super curious, and I just kind of went down the rabbit hole. And so I was probably about 12 at this point. It's probably about 6 months to a year goes by, and I was just sitting in the back of my head one day. I'm just I just Googled whatever, naked women or something, like everybody does. And then it just went down and down and down from there. And then immediately at 13, I was hooked. And it took me a long time to get off of it. And I legitimately think that my pornography issue and addiction caused a stunting in my maturing process as a man. And so legitimately, if I could just go back to that 11-year-old kid, and I so wish I could just sit him down and say, hey, when you're gonna log onto the site to play this stupid little video game, you're gonna see an ad that completely transforms your physical, mental, and emotional development. So please just don't play that game, and please talk to your parents about what pornography is first before you continue to browse on the internet randomly. So that's like, and then fast forward, 4 years of really, honestly, like coming back to it pretty often. Now, I'm going to be kind of candid about this and say, like, I'd never watched anything that was, like, scripted, never anything from the industry, right? And so I used to go to therapy at one point when I was, like, 16, 17, 18, and I was very candid with her, and I just shared, like, like, I'd never watched anything that was, like, scripted or industrialized. I ended up finding, different, like, paths on, like, Reddit to observe women who were posting themselves. And I always thought that was better because I didn't want, like, to know that I was just, like, watching something that was, like, clearly, I just felt so raw and, like, dehumanizing, and I felt so bad about that, but I also couldn't get off of it because, as a man, it's just such a deep desire for that, both for the physical of like an orgasm and like of that experience, but also for the mental and the emotional of like feeling valued and feeling like worthy of somebody giving themselves to you like that. And so it's just so devious in that way. So 4 or 5 years go by of me being on this sort of a cycle of like the thought would pop up, and I literally remember like the thought would pop up in my head like, oh, porn exists, and I'd be like, frick, like here we go again. And then like within 2 days I would end up doing something. And it was just a cycle, like probably once a week, maybe twice a week for a long time. And I remember like just scrolling and looking at different pictures after pictures after pictures. And that was my story. Like legitimately, that was what I did. And like, I'm no longer ashamed of it because I've forgiven myself and I've healed from it and I've moved on. And I want to share how you can do that and how doing that allowed me to build a business and build a life for myself. Like, I've got a beautiful fiance who my family loves her. She loves my family. We get along amazing and we're ready to get married. And I'm starting a life. I'm running a business. Today is looking like a $30,000 day potentially. Like we have a good structure. I have a good life set up, and I legitimately couldn't do it if it weren't for addressing pornography. And so my tipping point was when it was essentially when I started to just notice, like I was having conversations with other guys about like men that I knew had a really healthy vantage point in all of this, and my dog is chewing on my leg chair, like the leg of my chair right now, which is hilarious. But I noticed like other guys would talk about women in a way that I didn't, so I kind of ended up being a little bit of like an incel. So, and obviously I'm Christian, so I'm waiting until marriage to have sex. But still, like, even if I wanted to have sex, I couldn't. There's no way. Because I had such disdain towards women, and had such disdain towards, like, both, with the relationship that I had with my mom, and her and I had to go through some healing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video I made with her on the channel. And then also because of pornography. Like, I had a really hard time, not just hating women. And so I remember hearing other guys talk very positively about the women in their life, and I had some women friends, but I would always subtly resent, like, not being able to, like, not doing to me what I've seen, women do to other men online or whatever. And, it almost felt like, the core of my relationship with women was, even though I had female friends, I couldn't help but in my own head, in my own psyche, objectify them and kind of put them in this box of, like, you are like a sexual object, essentially. And at your core, you are a sexual object. And that's what porn does. And so it completely destroys your relationship with women. And so I remember... there was this one day where I was just talking to, I forget who it was just friends at the time, and they were talking about like how much they respect some of the women around them and how much love they have for them and their own moms and stuff like this. And I was like, man, like, I really don't relate to what you guys are saying. Like, I feel like women are so entitled and yada yada. And I just felt like women were so, I don't know, I hated women. And I realized that, like, I think, like, probably why I don't like women is because they're not giving me what I want. And I've trained my brain to want something that is just silly and unrealistic and stupid. And so obviously I'm going to have a skewed perspective on like what makes a valuable woman. And that's when I realized, like, I was lucky enough to be mature enough at like 15 or 16 to start to realize these things and start to realize that I had a pretty skewed view both of myself and my sexual marketplace value, as well as other women and their sexual marketplace value. Because when you're a kid, you haven't become an adult yet, and I'm still a kid in many ways. I haven't become an adult. I'm super young. Unfortunately what happens is, you're so moldable. Obviously, I don't have to explain that. You're moldable. And so I thought, my subconscious brain thought I had a higher sexual marketplace value and I deserved more than I was getting from women because, I was basically tricking my brain into thinking it was getting something that actually wasn't, because your subconscious doesn't know the difference, right? So anyway, that was kind of the tipping point. And so from there on, this was the primary reason why I went to therapy. It was also, I opened up to my parents about like the issue because I didn't tell them for so long. And they had no idea. And I remember telling them, and literally right around when I told them that I had a pornography issue, was when the house fire happened. And some of you know the story about, my house fire basically uprooting my entire family and our entire lives and leading to all kinds of, it's not just the house fires. My parents are business owners and they couldn't focus on the business, and all kinds of things started to fall apart. And so then we were, there was, I don't know, we moved like 8 times in like 3 months, and I've got 4 siblings, so we couldn't even function. And so that led to all kinds of issues with my family, which led to me wanting to step up into entrepreneurship and sort of bring something to the table to help us through that time, which, obviously my parents didn't end up needing the help because they're sharp people in of themselves, but that was my call to action. That was when I realized that I needed to do this, because I don't know, I just realized that like I needed to, like, it was interesting, I think God had some interesting timing where on one hand I'm deciding to get rid of pornography in my life, and on the other hand I'm being called to action as a man and needing to kind of step up into a new role for myself. And so at the same time that I'm deciding to quit pornography, I'm also seeing my family struggle in a massive way and deciding that I need to level myself up so I can help. And so it's an interesting season, but because of that, my parents and I never ended up having the space at the time to have the conversations that might have needed had. And it's not just about honesty with your parents, it's actually about getting their help and letting them, sorry, my dog is still chewing on my chair. Letting them help you, like, by giving you therapy and like getting you into a good counseling, or counseling or whatever, right? And so I just didn't get that. So I just basically sort of, I don't know, I ended up kind of hiding back in my shell and just going back into myself and doing work. But what happened was, it's interesting, honestly, my tipping point wasn't not looking at porn. It was deciding to become better. And so you don't get rid of a negative. It's impossible. You can't just get rid of a negative, because then you create this void that needs filled with something. And so in my video where I bashed video games, and honestly I took the video down just because I was getting so many people thinking that like I was telling them that they will not become something if they play video games. What I meant by that video is the same thing I mean by this video. You have to, in general, have more positive things that stack your advantage over your lifetime than you do negative things that keep you idle or still. And, pornography is one of those things that keeps you idle or still. And so I had to, and it wasn't a clean break, by the way. It took a while. It was a slow and steady process of like it going longer and longer before I need it, and then getting back into the dating scene, taking care of myself. I started, I realized that a lot of what I wanted with pornography wasn't actually, orgasm or, that biological fulfillment. What it was is I wanted to feel like a man. I wanted to feel like a capable guy. And so it took a while, because obviously at 16, 17, I wasn't. I was kind of, I was super skinny. I was really insecure, and I needed everybody to like me. And if they didn't like me, I had a huge problem with that. And, I was super status driven, and yet I had no status, right? And so I think today, to be honest, a part of why I think I've cooled off is because I've established myself as a man. I've got that status, and now I can kind of breathe a little bit. And so, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think, being status driven is inherently a bad thing. I think if you need to go achieve something and become something in order to feel good about yourself, that's honestly okay. I think probably, especially as a man, that's your conscience telling you could be more. And that's what I felt. So that's really the tipping point. It wasn't deciding to not look at porn. It was deciding to start a business, to hit the gym, to, put $1 million in the bank, to, find a woman that I want to marry. I started to have goals, started to push go for something that is bigger than myself. And now today, even when I'm going through a dark season, let's say I've had a bad 2 or 3 weeks in the business, or we had an important thing fall through, whatever, or, things are going to hell in a handbasket, and, there's nothing I can do about it, which, has happened probably like once or twice. My brain still thinks about pornography. It will still be like, oh, you could always just look at porn. Because, so for me, I've used porn almost as like a negative motivator. Like, the less desire I have to look at it, the better I'm probably doing in life. And the better I'm doing in life, the more reward I'm going to get out of life. And life to me is, a mixture of goals, states of mind, habits, and, your belief system. And I want these things to emanate themselves in a positive way in my environment, both to positively influence the people that I love and provide for them and bring something good to the table for them, as well as leveling myself up as a man in all ways possible, which includes, primarily right now in my 20s, it's financial, it's through my business. And then secondary to that would be, my relationships and the people that I love and the people that I'm around. And I think that will probably flip in my 30s or 40s back to relationships being first, but I need to establish myself in this season. This is the season for that. And I made a video called, why your 20s aren't for having fun, why that's actually really bad advice, and I do believe that. So yeah, that's like the tipping point. Like, for me, quitting porn was pretty much as simple as like deciding that I no longer want to settle, because I knew every time I did it, I was settling, and it wasn't easy. Like, it wasn't easy, and it's frustrating because, like, how do you tell the story of 3 years worth of consistent attempt to stop? Like, there's no way to tell that story. But at some point, I realized, like, it's not about not doing porn. Just like, it's almost like it's environmental, you know. It's the level of mental health that you have and how satisfied you are with your surroundings is going to affect your desire to do these things. And so just like if you only have like snack food and cheeseburgers in your pantry and fridge, and that's just going to cause you to eat like crap, in the same way that you should instead, you know, fill your fridge with good things and healthy foods that's going to cause you to eat healthy, in the same way, you need to start working on the environment you are in as a man. Who do you spend time with? Are you honest and vulnerable with them? And are you getting that accountability? Also, are you working on yourself as a man? Do you have some clear goals and places that you're going? Because, you know, like, it's funny. When I was in this environment, I had this belief that ambition is inherently selfish. That's my belief. I had the belief that ambition was inherently selfish because I was just getting something that I want. But what I realize now is that ambition and going after something takes all of these, like, it gets rid of so many issues. Like, when you just, like, genuinely have an aim, and that aim matters to you more than anything else. And, you know, at some point in my life journey, my aim won't just be business. It will probably end up being like being a good dad or a good husband or whatever. It'll end up being things that are different, not better or worse, just different. And in that, I will aim to have a clear goal, clear, like, this is who I want to be, and get intentional about that. And in pursuit of that ideal, in pursuit of that person, it's not even that you don't look at porn or you have to fight. It's just that it falls to the wayside because you are on your mission. Yeah, I mean, that's like honestly, instead of no longer looking at porn, look at the ways that you value yourself as a man or you don't value yourself, and start to work on those things. You know, do you get positive attention from women? If you don't, think about why, and start to get yourself out there in a place where you get that positive attention. You get, you know, women, you know, like, even just interacting with you in a positive way. Like, that was a huge one for me because, you know, for the longest time, they just didn't. And, you know, honestly, like, you know, after I made this decision, I started to kind of practice, like, how do I interact with them? And I just got comfortable. And I had, like, you know, a lot of female friends at that point, and I started to kind of put myself out there, and that was huge for me, like, getting that validation, because a lot of the time, it's like, you just literally don't even have female friends. And so, you know, my advice is honestly to establish some female friends, to put yourself out there, to get to know women in a positive way, and just be there with no romantic interest, honestly. Just, like, you know, go out there just to realize that women are actually people. And that's what I had to do. And then the next step is just to establish some clear goals. Like, where do you want to be? You don't have to start a business. Like, that's just what I did. You can, like, decide to do anything. You can start a small, you know, organization, or like go volunteer at a food pantry, or who knows, like, go do something productive. You know, go decide that you're going to read 10 books and go read those books and take into heart, you know, what you've learned from them, or go do something productive, something that brings something home to the table. And I think business is, the reason I settle on business is because it's both productive for me and self-sharpening for me, as well as it produces something for my life that is actually of utility, which is obviously money. And so it's a personal growth thing, as well as bringing money back home that I can then use to support the lifestyle that I want to have, you know, the level of provision that I want to bring to the table for my future family, and, you know, be able to have the sort of status symbols that I want to have around me that enable me to have the sort of authority and the presence that I want to have, you know, throughout my life. So that's what I picked. So anyway, hopefully this makes sense. You know, I think strong character leads to strong decisions, leads to a strong business, strong relationships, everything like that. And if you can get rid of these things that slow down your character development, get rid of the things that are rewarding you where you don't deserve it, you will speed up your growth significantly. And I legitimately, you know, some people, I bet after watching this video you can understand the correlation in my head here. But I believe that if I'd have quit porn or never even stumbled into it when I was like 11 or 12, and if I'd quit so much sooner and gotten honest about my problem with it much sooner in my life, then I would legitimately, instead of doing like $1 million a year, I'd probably be doing like, you know, $4 or $5 million a year right now. Like, I legitimately have that correlation, because the level of motivation that I have to do this and the momentum that I was able to build came after I decided to, like, not just quit porn. It's not quitting porn. Like I said, it's stepping into a new role, but I would have stepped into that role significantly sooner if I didn't have the vice of porn, if I didn't have the numbing agent of porn. You know, porn basically turns the mirror that you would otherwise look at yourself in to assess yourself and think, who am I? What are my values? What am I becoming? What kind of a man am I? That mirror is now foggy. You don't have a clear vision of yourself. You can't see yourself objectively because you're constantly numb. And so see what happens if you can go 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and just start to look around and, like, look at, like, wow, my life kind of sucks. And instead of going back to porn, instead of going back to the vice. You have to do the work. You have to go through a year, 2, 3 years of putting yourself into the world, establishing yourself, establishing your social circle, your business, your physique, your studies, your faith, the books you've always wanted to go through, the people you've always wanted to talk to. Do the things that you've wanted to do and act as if you are the person that deserves the results that you want in life, and you'll find that those results will come to you. But unfortunately, when you're looking at pornography and you're, pleasuring yourself to pornography especially, you are not acting as if the sort of a man that gets the results that you want to get in life. And so if you have these goals and then down here you're looking at porn, there's going to be a mismatch in values, and it's going to hold you back for years. And I wish I would have known that. I wish I would have seen, my excuse was a lot of the time it was hey, this is the last time I'm going to do it. That's what an addict says, right? This is the last time I'm going to do it. I'm never going to do it again. Sorry, my dog was chewing on a cord down there. I don't want him to get shocked. I wish I would have told myself that, because I wish I would have known that, because I would be so much further today if I'd have done that. So, becoming a man in manhood isn't just about, it goes a little bit against, some of the red pill stuff or whatever that you see online, but it's not just about, the size, of your physical body. It's not even just about your bank account and how much you make. It's not even about how much attention women give you. I do not think that is proper, manhood. I think manhood is ultimately it's self-management, and ultimately it's trimming yourself into who you want to become and doing the daily small work that enables you to become that person, whether it is financial or body or whatever arenas. I think men do the small work over and over again over a long period of time. And in order for you to be even motivated to do this small work, you have to get rid of the numbing agents in your life. And it's not just porn. Look at other numbing agents. This is why I made the video I made on video games. Look at other numbing agents. What are you numbing yourself with? Be honest with yourself. Be honest about, how am I numbing myself? How am I, what am I telling myself that eases the pain of the lack of results I'm getting? What am I doing that eases the pain, that again, numbs myself to the current reality I'm living in? And as many things as you can get rid of that are numbing you, the better. You will go so much further if you can just face the reality that's right in front of you. This is why alcoholism is such an issue, because people don't want to face their problems, right? This is why, drugs are a thing. Porn is, it's really an escape. And just slowly over time, it chips and chips and chips and chips away at your life until it gets more and more and more negative, and then you end up a total loser, a total complete loser. And you have nothing going for you. And your climb from that state to just being normal is significantly harder. That climb from being a total deadbeat loser to being a normal guy with normal assets and normal attention from women, normal lifestyle setup, normal stuff, that is harder to do than to go from normal to incredible. You have to understand, you are at a worse place. If you are addicted right now, you are doing the hard work this year that will enable you to go from normal to an incredible spot way easier. Just know that the season that you're in right now is the hardest season. And if you can get through it, if you can just get through it, go a year. It's easier said than done, I know, but go a year and just see where your life ends up. Start chasing excellence. Start chasing things that put you ahead. Build a business, work on yourself, introduce good friends into your life, read some books, befriend some women, make some women friends, put yourself out there, join groups, join communities that you really value, and start applying yourself, and do that awkward work of feeling a little out of balance, feeling a little out of place, feeling like you don't deserve the things that you're after. You never will feel like you deserve them. I've grown this business to the level that I've grown it today, and I look at the numbers that we do, and I look at my bank account, and I'm just like, man, it still feels off balance. And people have this idea your identity will control the results you get. But honestly, if you can just get comfortable with you feeling like you don't deserve what you have, it will still grow. I don't feel like I deserve these things, but they happen to me. And that's really cool. And it's a cool place to be where, I legitimately feel like anybody could do what I've done, and I don't feel like it's special at all. And yet at the same time, I'm getting those results, and I am succeeding, and I am winning in my own arena. So anyway, hopefully this video has been valuable. If it has been, please share some thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think. Leave a like or leave a dislike. I'm gonna get some people in the comments saying, "Oh, Trey, but porn in general is, if you pace it out properly and you only do so much, it's actually kind of healthy to, be on a consistent, ejaculation cycle." And I was like, oh my gosh, dude. What you're doing is you're taking something that is a vice. It is literally a vice, and you're playing right on the fence of it. There's no evidence to suggest that once a year looking at porn is going to rewire your brain. I totally get it. But why not just totally cut it? why not just get it all the way out? Because if you're gonna play on the fence, you're just playing with fire. So just get rid of it. Get it out of your peripheral. Don't even think about it. Build your life. Build yourself up as a man to the point where you don't need any validation other than the results that you've gotten in your life. The results themselves will give you the validation that you are otherwise seeking through pornography. I promise you. The high of a high revenue day, the high of, my fiance telling me to my face, like, I trust you. No matter where you go, I will follow you. I will follow you to the ends of the earth. I'm ready to go. Like that's the high that I'm after now, is the high of getting positive results in my life. And that high is so much better than any high that any vice could ever give me. So I encourage you, it's not just getting rid of the issue. It's actually pursuing a greater self. It's getting clear on who you want to be and doing the work to be that person. So anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one.